I woke up that morning with a strange feeling in my chest, as if something was about to happen. Breakfast went unnoticed as I opened my laptop and checked my emails. At the top of the list, there it was, the email that would change everything. Important announcement, new CEO of TechWave. I frowned, curious. Our company, TechWave, was in the midst of significant expansion, so the appointment of a new CEO wasn't exactly a surprise. What surprised me was the urgency of the tone and the call for a general meeting that morning. In the conference room, the atmosphere was charged with anticipation. Colleagues exchanged curious glances and murmured about who the new boss would be. I sat in the back, trying not to draw attention. When the clock struck 9, the lights went out and an introductory video began to play. And then he appeared. Alex. My heart raced and I felt the world spin. The face I had tried to forget for years was there, smiling at the camera. Older but unmistakably Alex. The video ended and he took the stage, receiving applause while I could barely breathe. "Good morning, everyone," he began, with a voice that still made me tremble. "It's a pleasure to be here as the new CEO of TechWave. I'm looking forward to working with all of you and taking this company to the next level." As he spoke, flashes of our past together flooded my mind. The laughter, the fights, the pain of the breakup. Everything felt so vivid that it almost hurt physically. I spent the rest of the day trying to avoid him, which wasn't easy in an open-plan office. Every time I heard his name or his voice, my stomach churned. I thought I had managed to escape until the end of the day, but then my phone rang. "Megan?" It was Alex's assistant. "Mr. Silva would like a meeting with you in his office, now." I swallowed hard. There was no avoiding it. I walked to his office, each step heavier than the last. When I entered, he was standing, looking out the window. "Hi, Megan," he said, turning with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "How are you?" "Hi, Alex," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm fine. And you?" "Fine as well," he replied, gesturing for me to sit. "I want to discuss some future projects with you. I've heard you've been doing amazing work." The tension was palpable. He talked about plans and goals, but I could barely focus. And then, casually, he said, "Do you remember when we used to dream about projects like this?" My heart tightened. "Alex, I don't think it's appropriate." "Sorry," he interrupted, raising his hands in surrender. "I just think we still have a lot to talk about." The meeting ended with a lump in my throat and a sense of disorientation. I rushed out of the office and, as soon as I got home, called Ellen. "Friend, you won't believe what happened," I said, my voice trembling. "What is it, Meg?" Ellen asked, concerned. "Alex, he's the new CEO." "Huh, Alex? You're Alex?" she exclaimed, incredulous. "How is that possible?" "I don't know," I said, fighting back tears. I thought I had moved on, but seeing him today, it was like reopening an old wound. "You'll make it, Meg," she said, her voice full of conviction. "You're strong and have been through worse. But maybe it's time to finally confront this." Ellen always knew what to say to calm me, but at that moment, I wasn't sure if I was ready to face the ghosts of my past. The truth was, no matter how much I tried to convince myself otherwise, Alex still had an inexplicable power over me. And now, he was back to shake up my life in ways I could never have predicted. The sound of the alarm seemed louder that morning, as if it wanted to remind me of the difficult task that awaited me. I got up, determined to keep things professional. My mind was still confused by Alex's unexpected return, but I knew I needed to set the past aside and focus on work. I put on my best professional outfit, trying to convince myself that a confident appearance would help mask the internal turmoil. Upon arriving at the company, the environment was bustling, as always. Colleagues ran back and forth, immersed in their daily tasks. However, there was a different energy in the air, a tension that I suspected had everything to do with Alex's presence. I went straight to my desk, avoiding unnecessary encounters and focusing on my projects. During the team meeting, Alex was there, sitting at the head of the table. His presence was imposing, and I couldn't help but notice how he seemed more confident and authoritative than before. He began talking about the company's new directions, its goals and objectives. I tried to stay focused, but it was hard not to get lost in old thoughts. "I'd like to commend Megan for her innovative idea on the last project. Her approach is exactly the kind of thinking we need here," said Alex, his eyes meeting mine for a brief moment. I felt my face heat up. The public praise caught me off guard. Was he being sincere, or was there a hidden intention behind his words? I murmured a thank you and tried to concentrate on the ensuing discussions. When I returned to my desk, I found a small anonymous note. "Your work is inspiring. Keep it up." I knew it could be from anyone, but I couldn't shake the feeling that it was from Alex. He always had a peculiar way of communicating, even in small gestures. Later, Alex invited me to a business dinner. "We need to discuss a possible promotion for you," he said, with a smile that seemed both professional and personal. I hesitated for a moment, but accepted. Perhaps this was the opportunity to clarify things, to understand his intentions. In the evening, we met at an elegant restaurant downtown. The atmosphere was sophisticated, and the conversation started professionally. We discussed projects, goals, and strategies for the company's future. However, as the night progressed, the conversation inevitably drifted to personal memories. "Do you remember that trip to Chicago?" Alex asked, with a nostalgic gleam in his eyes. "That was one of the best weeks of my life." I smiled despite myself. "Yes, it was an incredible trip," I admitted, feeling a mix of emotion and caution. "But Alex, we need to keep things professional. We can't let the past interfere with work." He nodded, seeming to understand. "I know, Megan, but it's hard to ignore what we feel. I just want you to know that I never stopped thinking about us." Those words hit me like a blow. I was torn between the past and the present, between the pain and the possibility of a different future. The night ended with a polite hug and a promise to keep things professional, but I knew nothing would be simple from then on. Upon returning home, I called Ellen, my best friend. "Ellen, he still gets to me. I don't know what to do," I confessed, feeling the tears welling up. "I understand, Megan. But remember how much you suffered. You need to be cautious. Give it time and listen to your heart," she advised, her voice soft and comforting. I knew Ellen was right. I needed to find a balance, set clear boundaries, and protect my heart. But as I lay down that night, part of me couldn't help but wonder if Alex's return could be a second chance for both of us. The morning began with a knot in my stomach. I knew I needed to confront Alex, but the prospect of facing the situation made me anxious. I spent the previous night thinking about every word, every possible response. I could no longer ignore reality. Alex was trying to get close again, and it was affecting me in ways I didn't want to admit. When I arrived at the office, Alex was already there, talking with some team members. His easy smile and confident demeanor made everyone around feel at ease. But for me, it was different. There was a whirlwind of emotions I was trying to control. "Good morning, Megan." He greeted me with a smile that seemed too sincere. "Good morning, Alex," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "Can we talk in private?" He nodded and we headed to the meeting room. I closed the door behind us, trying to find the necessary courage. He sat at the table, and I remained standing, crossing my arms. "What is going on, Alex? What are your intentions here?" My voice came out sharper than I expected, but I needed to be direct. Alex sighed, running his hand through his hair. "Megan, I know I owe you many explanations. I still have feelings for you, Accepting the position here in Austin had a lot to do with you. My heart skipped a beat. I didn't know if I was ready to hear this. So you came back just because of me? What about the job? The company? Of course, the company is important, but you are the main reason, he admitted, his gaze fixed on mine. I needed a chance to make things right, to try again. My thoughts were in disarray. Part of me wanted to believe him, but another part remembered the suffering I went through. Alex, I need time to think. He nodded, understanding. I get it. Take all the time you need, Megan. I just want you to know that I'm here, willing to make this work. I left the room with my mind racing. Ellen, my best friend, was waiting for me in the common area. She immediately noticed my state. Did you talk to him? She asked, concerned. I did. He said he still has feelings for me and that he came back because of me. Ellen frowned. Megan, be cautious. Remember what you went through, how much you suffered. But also, if this is real, maybe it's worth listening to your heart. Those words echoed in my mind for the rest of the day. The pressure at work was only increasing, especially with a crucial project approaching. I needed to keep my head in the game. I decided it was time to face Alex again, but this time in a professional setting. We needed to establish clear boundaries. I called him for a meeting at the end of the day, this time in my office. Alex, we need to talk about work, I began, trying to keep my voice neutral. We can't let the past interfere with what we need to do here. He agreed, but there was a sadness in his eyes. I know. I want you to know that my respect for you as a professional is immense. We can keep things strictly professional if that's what you want. Yes, that's what I need right now, I affirmed. The project we're working on is crucial, and we can't afford distractions. We spent the rest of the meeting discussing technical details and strategies for the project. Despite the tension, we managed to focus on work, and for a moment, it almost seemed like everything was normal. When the meeting ended, I felt a mix of relief and uncertainty. It was clear that there was still much to resolve, both professionally and personally. But at least for now, I had managed to establish some boundaries. I left the office that night with a sense that, despite everything, I was one step closer to understanding my own feelings and how to deal with Alex's presence in my life. The journey was just beginning, and I knew I needed to be strong to face the challenges that lay ahead. The crucial project was a mess. Every hour that passed seemed to uncover a new problem, pulling us deeper into the abyss of failure. I had barely slept the last few nights, and the exhaustion was weighing heavily on my shoulders. To make matters worse, I had to work side by side with Alex, which only increased my tension. It was late at night when Alex walked into the conference room where I was buried in papers and code, trying to find a solution to a particularly stubborn bug. He looked as tired as I felt, but there was still a determination in his eyes that I couldn't ignore. Megan, we need to talk about the approach to integrating the new system, he said, sitting next to me and spreading some diagrams on the table. I sighed, feeling a mix of frustration and resignation. Alex, we've already tried 3 different approaches. Nothing seems to work. I know, but I think we're looking at the problem the wrong way. What if... He hesitated, as if carefully choosing his words. What if we went back to basics? Remember how we used to solve problems in college? Sometimes the simplest solution is the one that works. I found myself smiling, remembering the sleepless nights we spent together, solving programming problems until dawn. Yes, I remember. You always said that simplicity was genius in disguise. He smiled back, and for a moment, the tension between us seemed to ease. Exactly. Let's try that. Let's dissect the problem and see if we can find a simpler solution. We worked together in silence for a while, our hands moving in sync as we re-evaluated each line of code. each variable. As the night wore on, we began to talk about things beyond work. Megan, do you remember that time we went camping and the tent collapsed on us in the middle of the night? Alex asked suddenly, laughing at the memory. I laughed too, the memory bringing a sense of nostalgia. Of course I remember. You were so confident that you knew how to set up the tent. It was hilarious. And you were mad at me all night, but then you confessed it was one of the best adventures we ever had, he said, looking at me with a smile that made my heart race. It really was, I admitted, feeling a warmth spread through my chest. It was hard to deny that despite everything, we had incredible moments together. As the night progressed, Alex began to open up more about his own feelings and sacrifices. Megan, there's something you need to know, he began, his voice serious. When we took on that big project a few years ago, I made a significant professional concession. The company wanted me to move to the New York branch, but I turned it down to stay close to you. I knew you wanted to stay in Austin, and I didn't want to leave you. I stayed silent, processing the revelation. This changed everything I thought about him. I had always believed Alex chose his career over me, but now I was discovering he had done the exact opposite. Why didn't you ever tell me that? I asked, feeling a mix of relief and sadness. Because at the time, I thought it was the best for us. And after we broke up, it seemed irrelevant, he replied, his eyes fixed on mine. The tension in the air was almost palpable, and I knew there was more to come. Alex, what really happened between us? Why did we break up like that? He took a deep breath, as if gathering courage. Megan, our breakup was a huge misunderstanding. I never stopped loving you. There was so much going on, and I think we were both overwhelmed and couldn't communicate the way we should have. I felt a wave of emotions wash over me. Part of me wanted to scream. Another part wanted to hug him and never let go. Alex, this is a lot to take in, but I'm willing to listen. We need to clear all this up. He nodded, looking relieved. I want that too. I want us to finally understand what went wrong and maybe find a way to move forward, whether together or not. But we need honesty and communication. And so, on that long night of work and revelations, we began to open the doors to the past, hoping to find a way to deal with the present and maybe, just maybe, build a more solid future. I was sitting in my office, staring at the computer screen, but my mind was wandering through memories and confused emotions. The meeting with Alex the previous night had been deeper than I expected. He had exposed parts of himself that I didn't know, and it affected me in a way I couldn't fully process yet. When the office door opened and Alex walked in, my heart gave an inevitable leap. "Megan, can we talk?" he asked, with an expression that mixed seriousness and vulnerability. I nodded, trying to maintain composure. He closed the door behind him and sat in the chair across from my desk. "I know the situation between us is complicated, but we need to clear everything up," he began, looking directly into my eyes. I took a deep breath and decided it was time to open my heart, too. "Alex, I'm still trying to understand everything that happened between us. Why did you leave like that?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly. He sighed, running his hand through his hair, a gesture I knew well. "It was a misunderstanding, Megan. At the time, I received false information from an ex-colleague of ours, Daniel. He told me you were interested in someone else and were just waiting for an opportunity to break up with me." I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. Daniel had always been jealous of my relationship with Alex, but I never imagined he was capable of something so cruel. "Daniel? He always seemed a bit off, but to do this?" I shook my head, trying to assimilate the revelation. "Yes, and I was a fool to believe him without talking to you first," Alex continued, the guilt evident in his voice. I was afraid to confront you and hear the truth, so I did the stupidest thing of my life and left." There was a moment of heavy silence between us as I digested this new information. Finally, I spoke. "We need to resolve this, Alex, not just for our past, but for our present and future. If Daniel did this, he needs to be held accountable." Alex nodded. "I agree, and I already have a plan. We'll reveal the truth and clear your name in the company. You deserve that more than anyone." The meeting with the team was scheduled for the afternoon. I was nervous but determined. When everyone was gathered in the conference room, Alex took the floor. "Thank you for being here. We have something serious to discuss, something that affects not only the integrity of one of our most talented employees, but also my own responsibility as CEO." The curious glances turned to him, then to me. Alex continued. "A few years ago, due to false information provided by a former colleague of ours, Daniel, I made a mistake that deeply affected my relationship with Megan. Today, I'm here to correct that mistake and reveal the truth." He then explained everything, from Daniel's lies to the impact it had on our lives. When he finished, the silence in the room was almost palpable. I felt all eyes on me, but this time, they were not judging. They were understanding and empathetic. Suddenly, someone started clapping. Soon, everyone was applauding. I felt a lump in my throat and tears in my eyes. It was a moment of redemption I never expected to experience. Daniel, who still worked at the company, was called into the room. When confronted with the truth, he had no choice but to admit it. He was fired on the spot, and I felt a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. Later that night, Alex took me to a special place, a park we used to go to when we were together. We were sitting on a bench, the moon gently illuminating the surroundings. He turned to me, holding my hands. "Megan, I know I've made many mistakes and that we still have a lot to fix. But I love you more than anything, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you." He then pulled a small box from his pocket and opened it, revealing an engagement ring.
"Will you marry me?"
Tears streamed down my face, and I could only nod before whispering, "Yes, Alex, I will." We kissed, sealing our renewed love and commitment, ready to start a new chapter together, free from the ghosts of the past. Did you enjoy the thrilling ending of Megan and Alex's story? Subscribe to the channel for more amazing stories. Leave your comment below and tell us what you thought of this surprising ending. We would love to hear your opinion.